Okay, I want to preface this video by saying that today we're going to be doing research into our authors, the time and place, and also the reception of our work of study. And aside from simply going out and just doing a quick Google search, this particular course, and especially this assignment, is going to require students to be able to expound on their research capabilities and really rely on academic resources and citation, MLA citation. So before I actually get into the video itself, I just want to quickly just mention we have a number of academic resources available here at Brent, JSTOR being one of them that I particularly really enjoy. Please make sure you utilize this resource for the remainder of the school year, basically. In your day-to-day conversations that you're having with your group mates, please make sure, again, that you're practicing good student integrity and hygiene. That means that in your notes that you're compiling with your group day-to-day, you are making reference to the conversations you're having and who in particular is sharing out that information. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on contextual readings here. And the first thing I want to just quickly remind us is that we have already covered readers, writers, and text. We're doing something of a blend this particular section of the course where we're blending RWT and intertextuality. And we'll talk more about intertextuality a little bit later. But just a kind reminder about what readers, writers, and text is all about. It's about looking at how texts operate, and more particularly the context and complexities that surround a text. So the time and place in which a text was produced, right? How does that influence the author? What do we know about the author, right? What influenced the author to produce a text, right? How does their particular background shape how we read and receive the text itself as readers? So this could be a little bit of reader response, but also when we start to look at literary theory, we're also going to be looking at reception as well. So obviously, when we read, we just kind of want to read to enjoy, but also read to experience for ourselves. But also, as we start to gauge more into academia, start thinking about how readers beyond ourselves in more academic backgrounds would be reading and receiving a text. So these are the set of questions that you're going to see on your notes today. Again, you can read these, but basically, what I just explained about context is already been posted here. So make sure that as you're going through, you are researching the background again of the author. You're learning about the time and place, the political, the social, the historical. We're looking at the subject matter of the text itself, so the person, place, thing, or idea. The author's purpose, like why did they produce the text, and then finally the reception. All right. Big thing here is please make sure that you're avoiding just summarizing your resources. Make sure you cite your research. And make sure that the research that you are using applies specifically to the production and reception, right? This is not a book report. This is not just a pure biography section. Where all the resources we're using are important to our understanding of readers, writers, and text. Okay, so you guys are going to be reading a literary novel, right? And as you guys are doing that, I'm also going to be introducing non-literary text because we are moving towards this understanding of intertextuality, looking at the relationship between a body of work that is literary and a body of work that is non-literary. So today I'm going to talk more about Tourneau, who is a comic for the Philadelphia Inquirer, excuse me. And we've already looked at this for our diagnostic here. So let's take a look at how we would answer these questions. All right. So you've had an opportunity to look at the cartoon itself, and what you'll see here on this document is I've already gone ahead and I've just sort of broken down for you what some of these notes might look like, right? So you see already that I'm talking a little bit about Rob Tourneau. I'm talking a little bit about who he is, specifically his occupation. and also a little bit about his actual profession itself. We know that he is a sports writer. He tends to blend political commentary in his work, right? So that right off the bat, we already have an understanding of the relationship between author and text. The significance of time and place, again, I've already mentioned here that Tourneau, who is, again, the comic, he and his co-workers were supportive of Simone Biles, who decided to step down. I provide a little bit of information about the place itself, the reason for why Simone Biles stepped down, because, again, that has a pretty large influence on how we make sense of this comic. So, again, I'm going to let you guys read this to yourselves. This is simply just a kind of an overview. Significant of subject matter and character. So now we're really looking at the character and how they are being represented in the text, right? The person, place, thing, and idea. And I gave a little bit of background information about Simone Biles, just a very brief one, because again, it's applicable to, again, some of the imagery that is used in the text itself. And also the response to the events that took place that are being referenced in the text, right? Especially, again, the commentary about the right-wing criticism, as well as some of the language that was used and associated with the identity of Biles, as well as there's some Russian state-owned media commentary as well. And these are actually really interesting points, and hopefully through this, you guys can see that maybe we can start thinking about a particular global issue based on the real-life response and how it's being represented in Tourneau's comic. Okay, so the significance of author purpose, right? So we know that Tourneau is talking a lot about the criticism from the online far right-winged presence and how they are prioritizing abstract concepts like patriotism, right? And being a strong athlete over pretty life-threatening, detrimental things like mental health and ableism and general well-being, right? And so what I've done here is I've done just a very brief commentary about what the purpose of this piece is. It's obviously that, yeah, Tourneau is trying to poke fun at the critics. Well, maybe not just poke fun at, being pretty critical of the critics, if you will. So he's using examples of caricature, he's using examples of diction, and he's using examples of irony here as a response to these critics. Because again, he, as an author, supported Biles' decision to step down. Okay, so the last part here, the reception of the piece. And this is kind of where we start to veer a little bit more into literary criticism, all right? And what we're going to see here is that as you look at the text, you can start to think about literary criticism as a way of understanding historical reception, right? And again, we'll talk more about this next class. I'm going to talk more about the CDC critical disabilities commentary and ableism in particular. But we know that the critic is a caricature. It's not a real person. It's an embodiment of a person or a group of people. It's a representation of a group of people, right? And we know that, again, it relies heavily on irony here. So the reception of this piece is obviously, like when we look at this text, we can tell that the critics would not take too lightly to the depiction of themselves or a body of critics of Biles, right? It's not the most flattering representation. So obviously the critics would not take too kindly to this. Tourneau's audience may actually be a little bit more supportive of it, especially if we were looking at a larger body of work. So today your job is to go through, do some research, make sure you look at your academic resources, and make sure that you take a minute as a group to delegate responsibilities and decide who's going to answer what. And of course, I will be around. The last thing here is that the next steps, thinking about how we could use these texts as a springboard for a larger global issue, right?